How did my own home turn into a family housing plan I never agreed to? Why did my daughter-in-law speak like my roof was already promised to her parents and her sister? And why did one calm sentence from me make the whole room go silent? My name is Graham Halvorsen, and I am 58 years old. I work as a maintenance supervisor for a municipal facility, the kind of job where nobody notices you until something breaks. I fix things quietly, keep systems running, avoid drama. People think that makes me soft. They are wrong about that, but I do not correct them. Let them think what they want. I own my house, paid it off 12 years ago. 3 bedrooms, 2 floors, a garage I converted into a workshop, and a backyard with a fence I built myself. Every board, every nail, every coat of paint, I did it. The roof does not leak. The furnace runs clean. The property taxes are current. It is mine, and I earned it through decades of showing up, working overtime, and making sacrifices nobody remembers. My son Evan is 32. Good kid, or at least he used to be. He works as a project coordinator at some tech startup, the kind of company where everyone talks about disruption, but nobody can explain what they actually do. He married Sienna 3 years ago. She is 29, pretty in that sharp way where every smile looks practiced, and she speaks in a voice that sounds pleasant until you realize she is giving orders. Lately, Evan has been visiting more, not the casual, "Hey Dad, let's grab coffee" visits. These are different. He shows up with Sienna, and they walk through my house like they are touring a property. She compliments things. The crown molding, the hardwood floors, the way the light comes through the kitchen window in the afternoon, but her eyes are measuring, calculating, like she is taking inventory. I keep my routines. Every morning, I make coffee in the same pot I have used for 15 years. I check the mail at 3:30. I pay my bills on the first of the month, never late. These small things matter to me. They are proof that I built something stable in a world that rewards chaos. At work, the younger staff treat me like furniture. During a morning meeting last week, I suggested a maintenance schedule adjustment that would save the city about $8,000 a year. The facilities manager, a guy named Derek, who is maybe 35 and wears sneakers to the office, did not even look up from his phone. "Yeah, Graham, we will think about that," he said, in the tone you use with children. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. Later, in the break room, I heard 2 technicians talking. One of them said something about me being the easy older guy who just goes with whatever. They laughed. I stood there holding my coffee, listening to them describe me as someone who folds under pressure, someone who avoids conflict because he is weak. I did not correct them either. I poured my coffee, added the same amount of cream I always do, and went back to my desk. But I remembered. I always remember. 2 weeks ago, Evan called and invited me to dinner at my own house. That is how he phrased it. "Dad, how about we come over for dinner Friday? We will bring everything." The way he said it felt rehearsed, like Sienna had written the script and he was reading his lines. I said sure. What else was I going to say? Friday came. They arrived at 6:30, exactly on time. Sienna carried 2 grocery bags and a bottle of wine that probably cost more than my weekly food budget. Evan hauled in a 3rd bag and set it on my kitchen counter like he still lived here. "This place always feels so solid," Sienna said, running her hand along the countertop. "You really took care of it, Graham." Graham, not Dad. She never calls me that. They set the table in my dining room, the one I almost never use because it is just me. Sienna moved around the space like a hostess, adjusting placemats, lighting a candle she brought. Evan kept glancing at her, waiting for some signal. We sat down. The food was good. Chicken, roasted vegetables, some kind of grain salad, Sienna explained, was super healthy. I ate and listened while she talked about her job in marketing, about Evan's latest project, about the traffic getting worse in the city. Normal conversation, except their phones were face up on the table, screens glowing like they were expecting something, or recording something. After dinner, we moved to the living room. This is where it happened. Sienna settled into the armchair, my chair, the one I sit in every evening, and looked around with that same appraising expression. "You know, Graham, this house really is perfect. The layout, the condition, the neighborhood. You did an amazing job with it." "Thank you," I said. She smiled. "No, it is such a shame you are here all alone. All this space, and it is just you." I did not respond. I have learned that silence makes people reveal more than questions do. "Evan and I have been talking," she continued, "and we think it is time for some changes. Family should be together, right? Especially as we all get older." Evan shifted in his seat. He would not look at me. My parents are retiring next year, Sienna said, her voice taking on a firmer edge. They have been renting for decades, and honestly, it is such a waste. They deserve stability. And my sister Nadia just finished grad school. Well, she is taking a break, actually. And she needs a place that is affordable while she figures things out. I waited. Let her get to the point. So we have been thinking, Sienna said, leaning forward slightly, that it makes sense for my parents to take the top floor. The master bedroom and that extra room would be perfect for them, and Nadia could take the downstairs bedroom. That way everyone has their own space, but we are all close by, like a real family compound. The room got very quiet. Somewhere outside, a car drove past. My refrigerator hummed in the kitchen. "This is your duty, Graham," Sienna added. Her voice was still pleasant, but there was steel underneath. "Family takes care of family, and let's be honest. You do not need all this space. It would actually be better for you to have people around. You would not be so isolated." Evan finally spoke. "Dad, it really would work out well. Sienna's parents are great. You met them at the wedding, and Nadia is pretty low maintenance." I looked at my son. Really looked at him. When did he start speaking in Sienna's voice? When did he stop being the kid who used to help me fix the back fence, who asked me how to handle problems instead of avoiding them? I looked at Sienna. Her expression was confident, expectant. She thought this was already decided. She had made the announcement, assigned the rooms, framed it as duty and family and inevitability. Then I noticed the others. Sienna's mother Marla had somehow appeared in my doorway. I had not even heard her come in. She was looking at the staircase, tilting her head like she was measuring for curtains. Behind her, I caught a glimpse of Sienna's father Roland in the hallway, his hands in his pockets, surveying my home like a contractor evaluating a job site. They had planned this, coordinated it. This was not a conversation, it was a presentation. They had walked into my house expecting me to simply agree, to be grateful that they were willing to move in and take over the space I had spent decades building. Something inside me shifted. Not anger. That is too hot, too fast. This was colder, clearer, like when you are working on a machine and suddenly understand exactly which part is broken and how to fix it. I stood up slowly. Everyone looked at me. I smiled, kept my voice calm, the same tone I use when explaining a repair procedure to a new technician. "No," I said, just that one word, but the way I said it made the whole room go silent. Sienna blinked. "What?" "No," I repeated. "No one is moving into my house." The silence that followed was the kind you feel in your chest. Sienna's mouth opened slightly. Marla stopped examining my staircase. Roland appeared fully in the doorway, his face shifting from confident to confused. Evan said, "Dad, come on, let's just talk about this." "We just did?" I said. The answer is no. I looked at each of them in turn. Sienna's face was going red. Marla's expression turned wounded. Roland's jaw tightened. Evan looked trapped, like a man standing between two closing walls. "I think," I said quietly, "that this visit is over." Nobody moved. I walked to the front door and opened it. The cool evening air came in. I stood there, hand on the doorknob, and waited. Sienna stood up, her face a mask of disbelief. "You cannot be serious. This is family. This is your duty. My house," I said. "My choice. Good night." They left. Eventually. Sienna tried twice more to restart the conversation, but I just stood at the door, patient and immovable. When Evan passed me, he whispered, "Dad, please, can we just—" But I shook my head once, and he went. I closed the door, locked it, turned off the porch light. Then I went to my kitchen, made a fresh pot of coffee, and sat at my table in the quiet house that was entirely, completely, and legally mine. And I began to think about what would come next. The next morning, I woke at 5:30, same as always. Made coffee, checked the weather on my phone. The house was quiet in the way that used to feel peaceful, but now felt like the silence before something breaks. I needed to understand how this had happened, how my son, who I raised to think for himself, had walked into my house and tried to redistribute my rooms like he was doing me a favor, how a woman I barely knew felt entitled to move her entire family into a space that was not hers. So I started thinking backward, tracing the pattern. Evan was a good kid growing up, quiet like me, thoughtful. When he was 16, he wanted to learn carpentry. I taught him in the garage, showed him how to measure twice, cut once, how to sand with the grain, how to respect the tools. We built a bookshelf together for his room. He was proud of it. When he applied to college, I helped him with the financial aid paperwork. His mother had left when he was 12, just walked out one day and sent divorce papers from Arizona. So it was just us. I worked double shifts that year to make sure he could go without drowning in loans. He studied business, graduated with decent grades, got the coordinator job. I was proud, thought I had raised him right. Then he met Sienna. At first, it was fine. She was charming, energetic, talked about goals and plans and making things happen. Evan seemed happy, more confident. They got engaged fast, 10 months after they met, but I figured he knew what he wanted. The wedding was nice, expensive, but nice. Sienna's family was there, Roland with his loud laugh and firm handshake, Marla with her tight smile and constant suggestions about how things should be done, Nadia who showed up late in a dress that looked slept in. They were fine. A little much, but fine. After the wedding, things shifted. Evan started using different words. He talked about optimizing his time and setting boundaries and managing expectations. Sienna's words coming out of his mouth. She organized his life, labeled his files, made schedules, decided when we would have dinner, what holidays we would celebrate together, which family traditions were worth keeping and which were outdated. I let it go. Thought it was just newlywed adjustment, that they would settle into their own rhythm. But the adjustment never came. Instead, the changes accelerated. About 6 months after the wedding, Evan stopped by unexpectedly on a Tuesday evening. No Sienna, just him. I was in the garage, organizing my tool cabinet, when I heard his car pull up. "Hey, Dad," he said, walking in. His hands were in his pockets, shoulders slightly hunched. Body language I recognized from when he was a teenager and needed to tell me something difficult. "Evan, everything okay?" Yeah, just wanted to check in." He looked around the garage, at the organized pegboard, the labeled bins, the workbench I had built 30 years ago. "You keep this place really organized. Keeps me from losing things." He nodded, picked up a wrench, set it back down. "Sienna thinks we should sell our place. Move somewhere bigger." "Can you afford bigger?" "Not really. That is the thing." He looked at me then, and I saw the stress in his eyes. "She wants us to start a family soon. Says we need more space for that. But the rent is already stretching us." I waited. Let him work through whatever he came here to say. "She mentioned, just as an idea, that maybe we could, if you were open to it, we could move in here, just temporarily, while we save up for a down payment." There it was, the first direct ask. "How temporary?" I asked. "I do not know. A year? Maybe 2? "Evan, you know how that goes. Temporary becomes permanent, and then what? This is my space." I know. I told her you would probably say no." He looked relieved, actually, like he had wanted me to shut it down so he would not have to. "Is that what you want? To move back in here?" He hesitated. "I just want her to be happy, and she has all these plans, for how life should be, and I am trying to make it work." "Making her happy is different from losing yourself in the process. You sound like you do not like her." "I did not say that. I am saying you need to remember who you are, what you want." Evan shifted uncomfortably. "She is my wife, Dad. I have to consider what she wants." "Consider, yes. Surrender to, no." He left shortly after that. I went back to organizing my tools, but my mind was turning over the conversation. That was the first time Sienna had used Evan as a messenger. The first time she had tested whether I would open my house to them. I had said no, but clearly that had not been the end of it. 3 weeks later, they invited me to dinner at their apartment again. This time, Roland and Marla were there too. The apartment felt crowded with 5 people, the air heavy with competing perfumes and the smell of takeout. "Graham," Roland said, gripping my hand too hard again. "Good to see you. Heard you have been doing some renovations." "I have not." "Oh, Sienna said something about you updating the upstairs." I looked at Sienna. She smiled innocently. "I just meant you keep everything so nice, Roland. Always maintaining things." "Right," Roland said. He launched into a story about his own rental situation. The landlord who refused to fix the leaking faucet, the neighbors who played loud music, the rent increases that came every year like clockwork. Marla added her own complaints, her voice rising with each grievance. I ate my food and listened. Every word was designed to build a case. Look how terrible their situation is. Look how much they suffer. Look how easily you could fix it. When dinner ended, Sienna brought out dessert, a fancy cake from an expensive bakery. "This is a celebration," she announced. "Of what?" I asked. "Of family. Of being together. Of appreciating what we have." She cut the cake, handed out slices. "You know, Graham, Evan told me about your conversation, about us moving in." I glanced at Evan. He would not meet my eyes. "And I just want you to know," Sienna continued, "that I totally understand your hesitation. It is your house, your space. I get that." She took a bite of cake. "But I also think about the future. about when Evan and I have children, about how those kids would benefit from having their grandfather close by, about how you would benefit from not being alone. I am not alone. But you could have family around, real family, not just occasional visits. Real family respects boundaries, I said. The room got quiet. Roland cleared his throat. Marla suddenly became very interested in her cake. Of course, Sienna said, recovering quickly. Of course we respect boundaries. I am just saying, think about it. The offer stands. I did not point out that there had been no offer, just expectation. Then the suggestion started. Sienna would comment on my house. Not criticisms exactly, but observations. This kitchen could really use an update. You have so much unused space. It must be lonely here by yourself. She started talking about duty, family duty, generational responsibility, how younger people today do not respect their elders the way they should, but she was different, she valued family, she believed in taking care of people. I should have seen it then. The way she framed herself as virtuous while simultaneously positioning me as someone who needed to be managed, someone who should be grateful for her attention. 6 months ago, Evan called and asked if they could stay with me for a weekend. Their apartment was being fumigated. I said sure, of course. They arrived with 3 suitcases and a bag of groceries. That weekend, Sienna walked through every room, opened closets, measured windows, took photos for inspiration because she was thinking about design ideas. When they left, I found a notepad on the kitchen counter. On it was a sketch of my top floor with measurements and labels. Roland and Marla, master bedroom, and office sitting room, written in neat handwriting. I put the notepad in a drawer and did not mention it. But I remembered. The week after they left, I got a phone call from a contractor. Mr. Halvorsen, this is Danny Torres from Riverside Construction. Your daughter-in-law reached out about some renovation work on your property, wanted to schedule a walkthrough. I felt my jaw tighten. I did not authorize any renovation work. Silence on the other end. Oh, she said you were thinking about converting the upstairs into a separate unit, full kitchen, bathroom updates, the works. She was mistaken. There will be no renovations. Understood. Sorry for the confusion. I hung up and immediately called Evan. He answered on the 4th ring. Dad, hey, I am in a meeting. Sienna called a contractor about my house. What? She told them I wanted to renovate the upstairs into a separate unit. Full kitchen, bathroom updates. Hold on. I heard muffled voices, a door closing. Then Evan came back on. Dad, I did not know she did that. Did you know she was planning it? Silence. Evan. She mentioned looking into options. For the future, but I did not know she actually called anyone. This is my house, not hers to plan, not hers to renovate, mine. I know, I will talk to her. You do that. I hung up and sat at my kitchen table, staring at my coffee. This was escalating faster than I had thought. Sienna was not just suggesting anymore. She was acting, making calls, involving professionals, building momentum toward a move-in that I had never agreed to. That night, Sienna called me directly. First time she had ever done that. Graham, I owe you an apology, she said, voice smooth and practiced. I got ahead of myself with that contractor. I was just trying to help, thinking about ways to increase your property value, but I should have asked first. Yes, you should have. It is just, I worry about you, you know? In that big house all alone. And I think about how much potential the space has, how it could really work for everyone. I do not need it to work for everyone. It works for me. Of course. I am just saying, if you ever wanted to make changes, I know people. Good people. Fair prices. I will keep that in mind. Graham, can I be honest with you? Go ahead. I grew up with nothing. My parents rented their whole lives. Never had stability. And now they are getting older, and I see them struggling, and I want better for them. Is that so wrong? No. But wanting better for them does not give you access to my house. I am not trying to take anything from you. I am trying to bring family together. By making plans without my consent, by calling contractors, by sketching out room assignments. She was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice had changed, harder. Evan told you about that. I found it myself. You left it on my kitchen counter. That was just brainstorming, just thinking about possibilities. Sienna, I am going to be very clear with you. My house is not available. Not for rent, not for temporary stays, not for your parents or your sister. This is my space. Mine alone. Do you understand? You are being very selfish. I am being very clear. There is a difference. Family is supposed to help each other. Help, yes. Surrender, no. She hung up without saying goodbye. I saved the call log, noted the date and time, wrote down key quotes from the conversation. I was starting to see the pattern clearly now. Every interaction, every comment, every helpful suggestion was part of a larger plan. And that plan was not going to stop just because I had said no. 2 months after that, we had dinner at Evan and Sienna's apartment. It is a decent place, 1 bedroom, modern building, but small and expensive. The rent is more than my mortgage ever was. During dinner, Sienna complained about the noise from upstairs neighbors, the lack of storage, the parking situation. I do not know how much longer we can do this, she said, looking at Evan with an expression that was part frustration, part accusation. Evan looked uncomfortable. We will figure it out. Your dad has all that space, Sienna said, not quite looking at me. It just seems like such a waste. I changed the subject, asked about Evan's work. He seemed grateful for the exit. But on the way home, I thought about the pattern. The compliments about my house, the comments about loneliness and waste, the sketch with the room assignments, the way Sienna framed things as family duty while making me the problem that needed solving. She was not asking, she was conditioning, building a narrative where the logical, moral, obvious solution was for me to surrender my space. And Evan was letting her. A week after that awful dinner, we met at a family restaurant. Sienna's idea, framed as just a casual lunch. But when I arrived, her whole family was there. Roland stood and shook my hand hard. Too hard, like he was establishing dominance. Graham, good to see you, buddy. Sienna says you are doing great. Marla gave me a hug that felt like an assessment. You look thin. Are you eating enough? You should come over for dinner sometime. Or better yet, we should cook at your place. That kitchen is just beautiful. Nadia barely looked up from her phone. Hey, she said. We sat down. The conversation was loud, overlapping. Roland talked about his plans for retirement, something about fishing and maybe consulting on the side. Marla complained about their landlord raising rent again. Nadia mentioned needing a quiet place to work on her portfolio. And through it all, Sienna orchestrated. She steered the conversation, highlighted problems, drew connections. It is so hard finding affordable places these days. Family really should stick together. Graham, you are so lucky to have such a stable situation. Lucky, like I had not earned it, like it had just fallen into my lap. I watched Evan during all this. He was quiet, picking at his food, nodding when Sienna looked at him. He did not defend me, did not push back, just sat there, shrinking. At one point, Sienna reached over and squeezed his hand. We are so fortunate to have family who understands what really matters, she said, smiling at me. The bill came. I paid for my meal. Roland made a show of reaching for the check, but Sienna stopped him. Let Graham get this one. He insists on being independent. The way she said independent made it sound like a character flaw. I paid and left. That night, I sat in my garage workshop, surrounded by tools I have collected over 40 years. I thought about every small moment of disrespect, every subtle push, every time I had let something slide because I was afraid of losing my son. I thought about how Sienna had turned Evan against me, using his fear of conflict and desire to please her as leverage. I thought about how they had planned that dinner at my house, coordinated the arrival of her family, prepared the room assignments, and expected me to just accept it. And I realized something. I had taught Evan to be thoughtful, to avoid unnecessary conflict, to look for peaceful solutions. Those are good qualities. But Sienna had twisted them into weaknesses. She had turned my son into someone who would rather sacrifice his father than face his wife. That was my mistake. I had raised him to be reasonable in a world that rewards people who push until they get what they want. I could not fix Evan. Not directly, but I could stop making it easy for them to take from me. I opened a drawer and pulled out a folder I had started weeks ago. Inside were printed copies of property records, title documents, insurance policies. I had been organizing them, not sure why at the time. Just a habit from work. Keep good records, document everything. Now I understood why. I started a new document on my laptop. At the top, I typed, timeline. Then I began listing every visit, every comment, every moment that contributed to this situation. It was past midnight when I finished. I saved the file, backed it up to 2 different drives, and printed a copy. Then I went to bed. The next day, I got a text from Evan. Dad, we need to talk. Sienna is really upset. Can we meet? I did not respond right away. Let him wait. 2 hours later, another text. Please, Dad, this does not have to be a big deal. It already was a big deal. They just had not realized it yet. That evening, I was in my backyard checking the fence line. My neighbor, Tara Nguyen, was in her yard too, watering plants. "Hey, Graham," she called over. "Hey, Tara." She hesitated, then said, "I saw you had company the other night. Lots of cars." "Yeah, family dinner." Looked tense when they left. I glanced at her. Tara is observant, practical. She teaches chemistry at the local high school and does not miss much. "It was," I said. She nodded slowly. "I have seen them before, you know, your son and his wife. They have been coming by a lot lately, sometimes late at night. I saw them measuring your porch a few weeks ago." That stopped me. "Measuring?" "Looked like it. Had a tape measure out, taking photos. I figured you were planning renovations or something." "No," I said. "No renovations." Tara's expression shifted. If you see them here when I am not home," I said carefully. "Would you let me know?" She understood immediately. "Of course. Thank you. You are a good neighbor, Graham. Let me know if you need anything." I went back inside and added a note to my timeline. Unauthorized measurements and photos, witnessed by Tara Nguyen. Evidence, documentation, patterns. I was not going to fight them with shouting or guilt trips. I was going to fight them the way I fix broken systems at work, methodically, with clear records and no room for interpretation. My phone buzzed. A text from Sienna. "We need to discuss this like adults, Graham. Family does not abandon family." I stared at the message, the arrogance of it, the manipulation. I typed back, "My house is not available. This is not a discussion." Her response came fast. "You are being selfish and cruel. Evan is heartbroken." I did not reply, just screenshotted the message and saved it to a folder. Let them think I was weak. Let them think I would fold. I knew something they did not. I was just getting started. The next week, Roland showed up at my door. I was in the garage when I heard the doorbell. I checked the security camera feed on my phone, a system I had installed 2 years ago, mostly to keep an eye on package deliveries. There he was, standing on my porch in khaki pants and a polo shirt, hands on his hips like he owned the place. I walked to the front door and opened it. Did not invite him in. "Graham," he said, voice booming. "Got a minute?" "What do you need, Roland?" He looked past me into the house. "Mind if I come in? Wanted to talk about this whole situation." "We can talk here." His smile tightened. Sure. Look, Sienna told me about the other night. I think there was maybe some miscommunication." "There was not." "Come on now." He laughed, but it had an edge. "You are a reasonable guy. Family helps family. That is just how it works." "My house is not available," I said. Roland's expression shifted. The friendly mask slipped. "You know what your problem is, Graham? You think too small. You have got all this space, and you are just sitting on it like a miser. Sienna's parents, that is me and Marla, we have been renting for 30 years. 30 years. We deserve better, and you could give us that, but instead you are being stubborn. This is my home. I decide who lives here." "That is a selfish way to look at it," Roland said. His voice was getting louder. "What are you going to do? Just rattle around in there alone until you drop? You do not even use half those rooms. It is wasteful, Graham. Wasteful and selfish." I looked at him, as I really looked. This was a man who had spent his whole life leveraging other people's guilt and obligation. He spoke about deserving things as if his wants created debts in others. "Are you finished?" I asked. "I am trying to help you see reason. You are standing on my porch making demands about my property. You need to leave." Roland's face went red. "You are making a mistake. Sienna is not going to let this go. Evan is not going to let this go. You are going to lose your son over this. Then that is Evan's choice." "You are a stubborn old fool," Roland said. "Get off my property, Roland." We stared at each other. For a moment, I thought he might try to push past me, but I stood in the doorway, calm and immovable, and eventually he stepped back. "You are going to regret this," he said. I closed the door without answering, locked it. Then I went to my computer and documented the visit. Date, time, what was said, added a note about implied threats, but Roland was not done. 10 minutes after he left, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Hello?" "Mr. Halvorsen, this is Jennifer Park from the County Assessor's Office. We received a request for information about your property's occupancy capacity and zoning restrictions." "From who?" "A Roland Velez. He said he was family and was inquiring about adding a secondary unit." My hand tightened on the phone. "I did not authorize that inquiry. The property is residential, single family, no secondary units planned or permitted." "That is what our records show. I just wanted to confirm with you directly since he seemed quite insistent. Thank you for calling. If anyone else calls about my property, I would appreciate if you contacted me first. Absolutely. Have a good day, Mr. Halvorsen. I hung up and immediately added this to my documentation. Roland was not just pressuring me directly. He was checking municipal records, looking for loopholes, trying to find legal grounds to force a multifamily situation. This was worse than I thought. They were not planning to ask permission. They were planning to create a situation where I would have no choice. The next day, Marla called. I let it go to voicemail. Graham, honey, it is Marla. I am so sorry about Roland. He gets a little intense sometimes, but his heart is in the right place. Listen, I was hoping we could talk, just you and me. Maybe I could come by for coffee. I make a really good lemon cake. We could clear the air. I deleted the message and added it to the log, but Marla was more persistent than Roland. That afternoon, she showed up with a container of lemon cake and a smile that looked practiced. I opened the door but did not step aside. Marla. Graham, I brought you something. Can I come in? Just for a minute? I am busy right now. Her smile faltered. Oh, well, I will just leave this then. She held out the container. I really am sorry about Roland. He should not have spoken to you that way. He spoke honestly about what he wants. At least there is that. We just want what is best for everyone. You understand that, right? We are not trying to take anything from you. That is exactly what you are trying to do. Graham, please, can we not be civil about this? We can be civil when you stop planning to move into my house without my permission. Her expression changed. The friendly mask dropped, and I saw anger underneath. You know what? Maybe Roland was right. Maybe you are selfish. We are trying to be a family, and all you care about is your space. My space that I worked for, that I earned, that is mine. Fine, fine. Enjoy your empty house. She shoved the cake container at me. I did not take it, so she set it on the porch railing and walked away. I left the cake where it was. An hour later, I checked the security camera and saw Tara walking over, picking it up and depositing it in her own trash can. She waved at the camera. I smiled. That afternoon, Nadia showed up. She was different from her parents, younger, louder, less polished. She rang the doorbell 3 times in a row, then knocked. I opened the door. Nadia. So you are the guy causing all the drama, she said. No hello, no pleasantries. What do you want? I want to know where I am supposed to live. Sienna told me the downstairs room was mine. I already gave notice at my old place. That was a mistake on your part. Her mouth fell open. Are you serious right now? I am family. You cannot just... I can. This is my house. This is so typical, she said, pulling out her phone. Old people with all the resources, hoarding everything while young people struggle. You probably bought this place for like $50,000 or something, and now you are acting like you are some kind of king. I bought this place for $180,000 in 2001, I said. Paid it off through 22 years of overtime and careful budgeting. You can check the county records if you want. She stared at me. Whatever. You are still being ridiculous. I need a place to stay. Then find one. Not here. She called me a name I am not going to repeat, then stormed off. I closed the door, sat down at my kitchen table, and wrote down every word of that conversation. 3 days passed, quiet days. I went to work, came home, maintained my routines, but I was waiting. People like the Valles family do not give up easily. They regroup, strategize, come back with a new angle. The angle came on Thursday evening. I was replacing a washer in my kitchen faucet when someone knocked on the back door. Not the front, the back. The door that opens directly into my yard from the kitchen. I looked through the window. Sienna. Alone. I dried my hands and opened the door. Did not step aside. Graham, she said. Her voice was different, softer. Can we talk? Just the two of us? About what? About fixing this. I know things got out of hand. My parents, Nadia, everyone got too emotional. But that is not what I want. I want us to find a solution that works for everyone. There is no solution where your family lives in my house. She held up her hands. Okay. What if we try something smaller? What if just my parents stayed here? Just temporarily. 6 months, maybe a year. They could pay rent, a fair amount. You would be helping them transition into retirement, and they would be helping you with bills. I do not need help with bills, but you could use the company. You have said yourself that you miss having Evan around. I miss my son. That is not the same as wanting to live with your parents. Sienna stepped closer. I did not move. Graham, I am trying to compromise here. I am trying to meet you halfway. Halfway from where? From the position where you decided my house was yours to distribute. She blinked, recalculated. I was wrong to assume. I admit that. But now I am asking, properly, will you help us? No. Why not? Because once they move in, they will never leave. Because temporary becomes permanent. Because you have already shown me that you do not respect my boundaries. You measure my property without asking. You call contractors. You make plans. Why would I give you access to make more? That is really hurtful, Graham. It is also accurate. She stared at me for a long moment. Then her expression changed again. The softness disappeared. You know Evan is miserable, right? He is torn between his father and his wife. That is what you are doing to him. You are making him choose. No, you are making him choose. You are the one who walked into my house and announced a move-in. You are the one who has been pressuring him to manipulate me. I am just holding my ground. He loves you. I love him too, but that love does not come with a deed to my house. Sienna's hands curled into fists. You are going to lose him. You know that, right? If you keep this up, he is going to have to pick me, and he will, because that is what husbands do. Then that is his choice to make, and yours, but it changes nothing about my answer. She turned and walked away without another word. I watched her get into her car and drive off. Then I locked the back door, checked all the windows, and added another entry to my timeline. That evening, Tara called. Graham, I saw your son's wife here earlier. She was walking around your property with a measuring tape again. This time she was on the side of the house, near the utility box. When? About 2 hours ago. She was on her phone the whole time. Looked like she was taking pictures. Thanks, Tara. You okay? I am handling it. I went outside and checked the utility box. Nothing looked tampered with, but I took photos anyway. Then I walked the perimeter of my property, looking for anything out of place. At the fence line near the back, I stopped, stood there looking at the boundary between my yard and the world beyond it. This fence was not just wood and nails. It was a line, a statement. This far, no further. Humiliation needs an audience. Boundaries need paperwork. I pulled out my phone and made a call. Halvorsen, a voice answered. Miles, it is Graham. I need to talk to you about some legal matters. Miles Ketter had handled my will and estate documents a few years back. He was methodical, calm, no nonsense. Exactly what I needed. Sure, Graham. What is going on? I gave him the summary. Brief, factual, no emotion. Told him about the attempted move-in, the pressure, the visits, the measurements. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, They are trying to establish residency. That is what I thought. If they move in, even temporarily, they might claim tenant rights. Depending on how it plays out, you could have a real problem getting them out without a formal eviction process. How do I prevent that? Document everything. Make it clear in writing that no one has permission to reside at your property. If they show up with boxes or start moving items in, you document it, and if necessary, you contact authorities for trespass. What about liability? If someone is living there without my permission and something happens, your homeowner's insurance could deny coverage. Unlisted residents create huge liability exposure. I would recommend talking to your insurance agent, getting that in writing too. I will. Graham, Miles said, this is your property. You have every right to control who lives there. Do not let them guilt you into something that could create legal and financial problems for you. I am not planning to. Good. Let me know if you need anything formalized. I can draft a cease and desist letter if it comes to that. Thank you, Miles. I hung up and immediately called my insurance agent, Diane Rourke. She answered on the second ring. Graham, hello. What can I do for you? I explained the situation. Again, just facts. No drama. Diane's response was immediate and firm. Do not let them move in. If you have unlisted residents and something happens, injury, property loss, liability claim, your coverage could be voided. Insurance policies have occupancy clauses. If you are lying about who lives there, even by omission, they can deny everything. What if they claim they are just visiting? Define visiting. A weekend, fine. A month, that is residency. If they start getting mail there, changing their address, staying overnight regularly, that is a problem. Can you send me something in writing? An official statement about occupancy requirements? Absolutely. I will email it today. Thank you. That night, I sat at my computer and organized everything. I created folders, timeline, communications, property records, legal documentation, insurance, witnesses. I printed key documents, made backups, built a paper trail that could not be denied or reinterpreted. This was not about revenge. It was about protection, about making sure that when the moment came, and it would come, I had every fact, every record, every legal boundary clearly established. They thought I was old and alone and easy to push around. They thought family obligation would make me fold. They were wrong. At work the next day, I overheard something that confirmed everything I suspected. I was in the break room, refilling my coffee, when two guys from the admin office came in talking. They did not notice me in the corner. "Man, Evan is really stressed," one of them said. It was Caleb Sloan, who works in the same building as my son. His wife is on him constantly about his dad's house. "What about it?" the other guy asked. "She wants to move her whole family in there. Parents, sister, the works. Evan says his dad said no, and now she is losing it. She has got this whole plan, room assignments, moving timeline, even talked to contractors about renovations." "Without the dad agreeing?" "Yeah, man. She is acting like it is already done. Evan is caught in the middle." "That is crazy." "I know, right? She keeps telling Evan he needs to make his father see reason. Like, dude, it is his house." They got their coffee and left. I stood there processing. So Sienna had been planning this for a while, had involved contractors, had timelines and assignments. This was not a casual idea. It was a calculated takeover, and Evan knew, was letting it happen, was probably even helping. I went back to my desk and added the overheard conversation to my documentation, noted Caleb as a potential witness. Later that morning, Caleb caught me in the hallway. "Graham, hey, can I talk to you for a second?" We stepped into an empty conference room. "I do not know if you heard," Caleb said, looking uncomfortable. "But I was talking about Evan earlier. Your son and his situation." "I heard." "Oh, okay. Look, I did not mean to gossip. Evan is a friend, but what his wife is doing... Man, it is not right. She has been calling him at work, demanding updates. Yesterday she showed up here during lunch, and they had this huge argument in the parking lot." "About what?" "About you, about the house. She was saying you are ruining everything, that you are being impossible." Evan looked wrecked. He kept trying to calm her down, but she just kept going. "I absorbed this. Thank you for telling me. There is something else. She asked me about property law, about squatters' rights and adverse possession, whether someone could claim ownership if they lived somewhere long enough." My jaw tightened. "What did you tell her?" "That I am not a lawyer, and she should talk to one. But Graham, she is looking for ways to force this. Legal angles, loopholes." "I appreciate the heads up. Evan is my friend, but what she is doing to both of you, it is wrong. If you need someone to verify what I heard, I will do it. I might take you up on that." He nodded and left. I stood there for a moment, processing. Sienna was not just planning. She was researching legal strategies. This was not going to stop with a simple no. She was preparing for a prolonged fight. That afternoon, I received an email from Diane with the insurance policy occupancy requirements. I printed it, read through it carefully, highlighted the relevant sections, and filed it in my legal folder. I also drafted an email to my insurance company, formally notifying them that no additional residents were authorized at my property and requesting confirmation that my policy would cover any issues arising from unauthorized occupancy attempts. I did not send it yet, wanted Miles to review it first, but having it ready gave me another layer of protection. The next day, I called Tara. "Graham, hi, everything okay? I need to ask you something. If things escalate, if my son's wife and her family try to move in despite my refusal, would you be willing to provide a witness statement about the measurements, the late-night visits, the planning they have been doing?" "Absolutely. I have been keeping my own notes, actually. Dates, times, what I saw. Something about the whole thing did not sit right with me." "Thank you. I hope it does not come to that." "Me too, but if it does, I have got your back." 2 days later, I got a group text. It was from Sienna, sent to me, Evan, her parents, and Nadia. "Family dinner next Friday at Graham's, 7 p.m. Bringing everything we need. Time to finalize the living arrangements. Looking forward to starting this new chapter together." I stared at the message. The audacity was breathtaking. She had not asked permission, had not even acknowledged the previous refusal. She was simply announcing it, using the group format to create social pressure, to make it seem like the plan was already approved and I was just a participant. I did not reply. I screenshotted the message, saved it, and added it to the timeline. Over the next few days, I received more messages. Roland. "Looking forward to Friday, Graham. We can talk logistics." Marla. "Should I bring anything? I make a wonderful potato salad." Nadia. "Finally. About time?" Evan sent a separate text. "Dad, please. Just hear us out. Sienna has really thought this through." I did not reply to any of them. Instead, I made calls. First, I called Miles Ketter again. They are planning to show up at my house with moving boxes, I said. Next Friday. They sent a group message announcing it. Do you have the message? Yes, saved and printed. Good. Here is what we are going to do. I am drafting a formal letter stating that you do not consent to anyone residing at your property, that any attempt to move in will be considered trespass, and that you have documented all communications. You will give this to them when they arrive. Will that hold up? Absolutely. It is clear. Written notice. If they try to move in anyway, you call the police and show them the letter. You are protected. What about the family angle? Can they claim I am abandoning them or something? Miles actually laughed. Graham, you do not owe anyone your house. Family obligation does not create property rights. They can be upset, but they have zero legal standing. When can you have the letter ready? I will send a draft tomorrow. You review it, we finalize it, and I will have it notarized. Thank you. I felt something I had not felt in weeks. Control. Next, I called the municipal records office and requested copies of my property deed and title. They were already in my files, but I wanted certified copies. Official, undeniable. Then I did something I had been considering for days. I went to the bank. My mortgage had been paid off for years, but I still had the same account, the same banker. Her name was Susan Morales, and she had handled my refinance a decade ago. Graham, she said when I sat down in her office, everything okay? I need to make sure my property documentation is airtight, I said. And I need a letter stating that I am the sole owner with no liens, no co-signers, no secondary claims. That is easy enough. Can I ask why? Family situation. People making assumptions they should not be making. Susan nodded slowly. Say no more. I will have that letter for you by tomorrow. Thank you. As I left the bank, my phone rang. It was Evan. Dad, we need to talk. What about? You know what about. Friday. Sienna is really upset that you have not responded. I am not having people move into my house, Evan. It is not like that. It is just... What is it like then? Your wife sent a group message announcing a move-in. I never agreed, never gave permission. She is acting like my house is hers to assign. Silence. Dad, she is trying to help. By taking over my home? That is not help, Evan. She just wants everyone to be together. Is that really so bad? Yes, I said. When it requires me to give up my space, my privacy, and my right to decide what happens in my own house, yes, it is bad. You are being really difficult about this? Those words, that tone. It was not Evan talking. It was Sienna, speaking through him. I am being clear, I said. No one is moving in. If you show up Friday with boxes, you will be leaving with boxes. Dad, I am not discussing this anymore. Goodbye, Evan. I hung up, turned off my phone, sat in my car in the bank parking lot and let the silence settle over me. I was losing my son. Or maybe I had already lost him, and I was just now admitting it. But I was not losing my house. I was not losing my dignity. I was not going to be pushed into surrendering the one thing I had built with my own hands, my own money, my own sacrifices. That evening, I stopped at a hardware store, not to buy anything, just to walk the aisles, ground myself in the smell of cut wood and machine oil, remind myself what building something actually takes. A young couple was looking at paint samples. The woman was excited, showing her partner colors, talking about their new apartment. He nodded along, smiling. They looked happy, like they were building something together. I thought about Evan and Sienna. They were not building. She was taking, using him as a tool to get what she wanted. And he was letting her because he was afraid of losing her. Fear makes people do weak things. I knew that from experience. I left the hardware store and went home. That night, I sat in my garage and assembled everything I had collected. Property deed, certified copy, notarized, title documentation, clear and unchallenged, insurance occupancy letter, explicitly stating restrictions on unauthorized residence, legal notice from Miles, draft waiting for final approval, formal and binding, timeline of events, comprehensive, dated, including witness statements, photos of unauthorized visits and measurements, time-stamped from security cameras, group text message screenshots, showing the planned move-in announced without consent, county assessor interaction notes, documenting Roland's inquiry about zoning, Caleb's statement about Sienna's workplace behavior and legal research, Tara's witness log, dates and times of suspicious activity. I spread it all out on my workbench, looked at it. This was not just documentation, this was armor. Every piece proved a pattern of disrespect, planning, and attempted manipulation. They thought they could overwhelm me with family obligation and social pressure. They thought I would fold rather than face conflict. They were wrong. I organized everything into the folder, created a checklist for Friday, property deed, certified copy, title documentation, notarized, insurance occupancy letter, signed by agent, legal notice for Miles, final draft waiting for my approval, timeline of events, complete with dates, messages, witness statements, photos of unauthorized visits and measurements, group text message screenshots. I put it all in a single folder, labeled it clearly, set it on my workbench. Then I made a checklist. Keys, all accounted for, no copies given out. Locks, considered changing them, decided to wait until after Friday. Entry permissions, none granted, clearly documented. Police non-emergency number, saved in phone. Witnesses, Tara on standby, Caleb potentially available if needed. I went over it 3 times, looking for gaps, weaknesses, anything they could exploit. There were none. Friday was coming, they were coming, boxes in the car, assignments in mind, confidence high. They thought I would fold, thought the social pressure, the family guilt, the sheer boldness of their plan would overwhelm me. They had no idea. Friday morning, I woke at 5 a.m., made coffee, went through my checklist again. Everything was ready. The folder sat on my kitchen counter, closed but present. The house was clean, organized, exactly as I kept it. No signs of preparation, no defensiveness, just calm, ordinary life. Before leaving for work, I did one more thing. I emailed Miles the final draft approval for the legal notice. Within an hour, he responded with a PDF of the notarized document. I printed 3 copies, one for my records, one for the folder, one as backup. At work, I kept my phone on. Half-expected messages, cancellations, last-minute attempts at manipulation. Nothing came. Instead, what came was worse. At 9:30, I got a call from my bank. "Mr. Halvorsen, this is Susan. I wanted to give you a heads up. Someone tried to access your account information this morning. They claimed to be your son and said they needed details about your property holdings." "Did you give them anything?" "Of course not. We have security protocols, but I thought you should know." "Thank you, Susan. I appreciate the call." I hung up and felt my stomach tighten. They were not just planning to show up. They were trying to gather ammunition, financial information, property details, anything they could use to claim standing or create leverage. I called Miles immediately. "They tried to access my bank account, said they were my son. Did they get anything?" "No. Bank blocked them." "Good. Document it. If they are attempting to obtain financial information under false pretenses, that could be fraud." "I will." "Graham, are you sure you want to go through with tonight? You could have me send the letter. Handle this without the confrontation." "No. They need to hear it from me, in person, with witnesses." "All right. Call me if anything goes wrong, anything at all." "I will." Caleb stopped by my desk around 11. "Hey, Graham, got a second?" "Sure." He looked uncomfortable. "I heard about tonight, from Evan. He is pretty wound up." "I bet." "Look, I do not want to get in the middle of family stuff, but—" He hesitated. "Evan told me Sienna has been planning this for months. She has contractors lined up, paint colors picked, furniture scheduled for delivery next week. She is not going to take no for an answer." "She already got no for an answer." "I know. I just thought you should know how serious she is. She is telling people the house is basically hers now." "It is not." Caleb nodded. "I know that. You know that. But she has convinced Evan it is a done deal." "Thank you for telling me. If you need someone to, I do not know, back you up or whatever." He shrugged. "I am around." "I appreciate that." He left. I added his warning to my mental file. At lunch, I sat in my car and called Tara. "Graham, hi. Big night tonight, huh?" "How did you know?" "I saw the group text on your phone last week when you were checking your security camera. Graham, I have been watching your house. There was a moving truck parked on your street yesterday afternoon, just sitting there. When I went to check, it drove away." "A moving truck?" "White panel truck. No company logo. I got the license plate. Want me to write it down for you?" "Yes, thank you." She read off the numbers. I wrote them down, added them to my documentation. "Tara, if things go badly tonight, I will be home, watching. If you need me to call anyone, just flash your porch light 3 times. "Thank you. You are not alone in this, Graham. Remember that." I hung up and sat there for a moment, feeling something unexpected. Gratitude. For neighbors who paid attention, for people who understood that boundaries mattered. At 4 p.m., I left work and stopped at the hardware store. Bought nothing, just walked through the aisles, grounded myself in the smell of cut wood and machine oil, reminded myself what building something actually takes. Then I went home. I set the table for 1, made a simple dinner, pasta, salad, bread, ate slowly, cleaned up, Put everything away exactly where it belonged. At 6:15, my phone buzzed. A text from Evan. Dad, we are on our way. Please, just listen tonight. That is all I am asking. I did not respond. Just set the phone down and did one final check. Front door, locked until they arrived. Back door, locked and deadbolted. Folder, on the coffee table, ready. Legal notice, top document impossible to miss. Phone, charged, emergency contacts ready. Security cameras, recording. At 6:30, I sat down in my living room and waited. The minutes ticked by slowly. I thought about all the small moments that had led here. Every comment Sienna made. Every time Evan failed to stand up. Every boundary they crossed because I had let them. No more. At 6:55, headlights appeared in my driveway. I did not get up. Let them come to me. At 7:05, the cars arrived. I watched through the window. Evan's car first, then Roland's SUV right behind. They parked in my driveway like they had every right. Doors opened. Evan got out, looking nervous. Sienna followed, smiling, confident. Then Roland, Marla, and Nadia from the second car. And then I saw it. The back of Roland's SUV was packed with boxes, suitcases, a lamp, a rolled-up rug. They had not come to discuss. They had come to move in. I walked to the front door and opened it before they could ring the bell. Hello? I said. Sienna beamed. Graham, we are here. I can see that. We brought food, Marla said, holding up a casserole dish. And we have got some things in the car to get settled in. Leave them in the car, I said. Sienna's smile faltered slightly. What? Leave everything in the car. Come inside, but nothing else does. Graham, do not be silly. We have got... Nothing comes inside. If you want to talk, we can talk, but no boxes, no luggage, nothing. Roland stepped forward. Now look here. My house, Roland, my rules. We stood there in a silent standoff. Finally, Sienna said, Fine, we will talk first. They came inside. Sienna, Evan, Roland, Marla, Nadia. They filled my living room, sitting on my furniture, looking around like they were appraising their new home. Marla set the casserole on my coffee table. I will just warm this up. Leave it, I said. She blinked. What? We are not eating, we are talking. Sienna settled into my chair again. Same move as before, claiming territory. Okay, Graham, we are here. We are ready to make this work. There is nothing to make work. Come on, Roland said. Let's be reasonable. We have all made sacrifices to be here tonight. You made assumptions, not sacrifices. Sienna's expression shifted. The sweetness drained away. We are family, Graham. This is what family does. Family respects boundaries. Boundaries? She laughed, sharp and bitter. You are sitting in this huge house all alone, being selfish, and you are talking about boundaries. It is my house, and we are your family. That does not give you a claim to my property. The room went very quiet. Roland leaned forward in his chair. Let me tell you something, Graham. I have been watching you for 3 years. You are alone. You have no life. You come home to an empty house every night, and we are offering you something better. Community, family, people who care. You are offering yourselves my house. That is not the same thing. We would pay rent, Marla said suddenly. We discussed it. We could pay you rent. Not market rate, obviously, but something fair. How much? I asked. She blinked. Well, we would have to work that out. Maybe $500 a month? For the master bedroom, the extra room upstairs, full access to kitchen and common areas. You think that is fair? We are family. It is different. You are right. It is different. Because if you were not family, I could charge actual market rate and treat you like tenants with legal agreements and protections. But because you are family, you want me to give you access with none of the safeguards and all of the emotional manipulation. Sienna stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. Evan, talk to him. Evan looked at me, then at her, then at the floor. Dad, maybe we can... No, Evan. You are tearing this family apart, Marla cried, suddenly in tears again. How can you do this to us? I am not doing anything to you. I am protecting what is mine. You are a selfish old man, Roland said, standing now too. His face was red, his hands clenched. You are going to end up alone. No one to take care of you when you are sick. No one to visit when you are in the hospital. Is that what you want? I want to make my own choices about my own life, in my own house. Nadia, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up. She was recording on her phone. This is crazy. Grandpa is literally refusing to help his own family. Everyone needs to see this. Go ahead, I said calmly. Record it. Post it. Tell everyone how your family tried to move into my house without permission, and I said no. See how that plays out." She hesitated, then lowered the phone slightly. "You do not understand what this means to us," Sienna said. Her voice was shaking now. Whether from anger or frustration, I could not tell. "My parents have given everything for me. They sacrificed, and now they are struggling. And you could fix that, easily, but you are choosing not to. I am not choosing not to fix their problems. I am choosing not to surrender my home. Those are different things." "No, they are not, because your home could be their solution, but you are too selfish to see it." Evan looked miserable. He kept glancing between Sienna and me like he was watching something collapse and could not stop it. "Evan," I said quietly, "do you want to live here? You and Sienna?" He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I do not know. Yes or no? It is not that simple?" "It is exactly that simple. Do you want to live in my house?" He looked at Sienna. She was staring at him, waiting. "I want what is best for everyone," he said finally. "That is not an answer. It is the only answer I have." I nodded slowly. That was all I needed to know. He had already chosen. Or rather, he had let Sienna choose for him. The room was tense now. Everyone was standing except me. I remained seated, calm, hands folded in my lap, letting them exhaust themselves with emotion while I stayed centered in clarity. "So what now?" Roland demanded. "We just leave? Pack up and go home? Forget this whole thing?" "Yes," I said simply. "That is it? You are just going to let us walk away like this?" "You were never invited to walk in." Sienna made a frustrated sound, half sob, half shout. "You are impossible. Evan, do something." But Evan just stood there, frozen between the two forces in his life, unable to move in either direction, and that was when I decided it was time. Sienna stood up. Her face was flushed, hands shaking. "You are going to regret this. Evan, tell him." Evan looked at me, then at her, then at the floor. "Dad, maybe we can—" "No, Evan." "You are tearing this family apart," Marla cried, suddenly weeping. "How can you do this to us?" "I am not doing anything to you. I am protecting what is mine." Roland stood. "You are a selfish old man. You are going to end up alone." "Then I will be alone in my own house, on my own terms." Nadia pulled out her phone. "This is insane. I am recording this. Everyone needs to see how he is treating us." "Go ahead," I said. "Record it. While you're at it, record this." I walked to the kitchen counter and picked up the folder. Came back into the living room. Set it on the coffee table next to the casserole dish. "What is that?" Sienna asked. "Everything I need," I said. "Property deed showing sole ownership, insurance documentation showing occupancy restrictions and liability exposure, a timeline of your attempts to pressure me into surrendering my home, witness statements from neighbors about unauthorized measurements and photos, messages proving you coordinated this move-in without my consent, and a formal legal notice stating that I do not grant permission for anyone to reside here." The room was completely silent. "You do not have permission to live in this house," I continued. "Any attempt to move in will be considered trespass. I have documented everything, I have witnesses, I have legal backing, and I have made it very clear in writing that this is not happening." Sienna stared at the folder like it was a bomb. You cannot do this." "I already did. This is family. You cannot treat us like criminals." "You are not criminals, but you are not residents either. You are guests, and guests leave when the visit is over." Evan stood up. "Dad, you are really doing this. You are choosing a house over us?" "I am choosing my rights over your entitlement." His face crumpled. For a moment, I saw the kid he used to be, confused, hurt, lost. But then Sienna grabbed his arm, and the moment passed. "This is not over," she said. Her voice was cold now, the performance gone. "We will see what happens when you really are alone, when no one wants to visit, when you need help and there is no one there." "I will manage," Roland jabbed a finger at me. "You are going to pay for this. Get out of my house." Nobody moved. I walked to the front door and opened it. Cool evening air rushed in. I stood there, calm and still, and waited. "Evan," Sienna hissed, "do something." But Evan was looking at the folder on the table, at the clear, undeniable documentation that proved he and his wife had been planning a hostile takeover of my home, at the evidence that they had measured and photographed and coordinated and lied. He looked at me. I looked back, and I saw the moment he understood that he had lost. Not the house. Me. "Leave," I said again, quietly, firmly. Sienna grabbed the folder, flipped it open. Her eyes scanned the first page, the property deed, then the insurance letter, then the timeline. Her face went white, then red, then white again. "You have been planning this," she whispered. "I have been protecting myself. This is manipulative. You set us up." "I documented facts. You created the situation." She threw the folder down. Papers scattered across my coffee table. "You are a horrible person. Horrible. I am the person whose house you tried to steal. We were not stealing anything. We were trying to bring this family together. By erasing my consent, by treating my property like it was yours to assign, by pressuring my son into betraying me." I looked at Evan. "That is what you did, Sienna. You turned my son into a tool for your scheme." Evan flinched. Marla was still crying, but now it sounded performative, desperate. "We have nowhere to go. You are leaving us homeless. You have the same place you had before you decided to invade mine. It is not enough. The rent is too high. The landlord is awful. We deserve better. Then earn better. Find better. But do not take it from me." Roland's face was purple. "You think you are so smart. You think you have won, but you just destroyed your relationship with your son. Was it worth it?" I looked at Evan again. He was standing between Sienna and me, literally and figuratively. His face was anguished, torn. "Evan," I said, "I taught you to think for yourself, to stand up for what is right, to respect boundaries and earn what you have. Do you remember that?" He nodded slightly. "Then ask yourself, who is really destroying our relationship? Me, for refusing to surrender my home, or Sienna, for putting you in a position where you had to choose between your wife's scheme and your father's dignity?" Sienna grabbed his arm. "Do not listen to him. He is manipulating you." But Evan pulled away from her, looked at the scattered papers on my table, at the timeline documenting months of pressure and planning. "You knew," he said to Sienna. "You knew this whole time that Dad never agreed." Of course he did not agree at first. That is why we had to convince him. "You did not try to convince him. You tried to force him." "Huh? Evan, you measured his house without asking. You assigned rooms. You told contractors to start planning. You sent messages acting like it was already decided. You lied to me." Sienna's control snapped. "I lied? I was trying to help my family. Unlike him, I actually care about people." "You care about getting what you want," I said. She whirled on me. "You have no idea what it is like. You got everything handed to you." "Stop," I said. "Just stop. I worked for 40 years. I saved, I sacrificed, I earned every single thing I have. You want better? Earn it yourself. But you do not get to guilt me into giving it to you." "This is so typical," Nadia said from the corner. "Old people hoarding resources, well—" "Nadia," I said, cutting her off. "You are 26 years old. You have your whole life to build what you want, so build it. Do not try to take mine." She opened her mouth, closed it, then looked at her phone instead. Roland tried one more time. "You are making a huge mistake. When you are old and sick and need help, do not come crying to us." "I will not," I said, "because I know how to take care of myself." Marla's tears turned to anger. "You are a bitter, lonely man." "Maybe, but I am a bitter, lonely man in my own house, living by my own rules." The words hung there. Sienna's hands were shaking. She looked at Evan. "We are leaving. Get your stuff." "I did not bring stuff," Evan said quietly. "Well, go get the boxes from the car then." "No." Everyone stopped. "What?" Sienna said. "I am not moving boxes in. Dad said no. He has every right to say no. This is his house." "Evan, do not do this." "You should have told me the truth," he said. His voice was steady now, stronger. "You should have told me you were planning all of this without Dad's consent. You made me part of it. You made me lie to him. I did not make you do anything. You did, and I let you, but I am done." Sienna stared at him like he had betrayed her. Maybe in her mind he had. "Fine," she said. "Fine. You all deserve each other. Come on, Mom, Dad. Let us go somewhere we are actually wanted." They moved toward the door. Marla was still sniffling. Roland shot me one last furious look. Nadia was typing furiously on her phone, probably already crafting the social media narrative. Sienna stopped at the door, turned back. "You will regret this. Both of you." I said nothing. Just stood there, holding the door open. They left. The cars started. Reversed out of my driveway, drove away. The sound of engines faded into the night. I closed the door, locked it, turned around. Evan was still standing in my living room, looking at the scattered papers on the coffee table. "Dad," he said, "I am sorry." "Are you?" "Yes. I should have. I did not. He stopped, started again. She made it sound like you wanted this, like you were just being stubborn to be difficult. I did not know she was lying. You did not want to know. He flinched but did not argue. What do I do now? That is up to you. I cannot go back there, not tonight, not with her like this. Then do not. We stood in silence. My house felt bigger suddenly, and quieter. I taught you to think for yourself, I said. You forgot that, or you let someone convince you to forget. But you can remember. You can decide what kind of man you want to be. Evan nodded slowly. I think I need to figure some things out. Then figure them out. But not here, not tonight. He looked hurt. I felt it too. But some lessons cannot be soft. Okay, he said. Okay. He walked to the door. Stopped. For what it is worth, Dad, you were right. About all of it. I know. He left. I stood alone in my living room. The folder was still on the coffee table, papers scattered. Marla's casserole sat there, cold and unwanted. I picked up the papers, organized them carefully, put them back in the folder, closed it, set it aside, threw the casserole in the trash, cleaned the coffee table, straightened the furniture, checked the locks on all the doors. My house was quiet. Empty. Mine. I walked to the kitchen, made fresh coffee, and sat at my table. Outside, the neighborhood was peaceful. Streetlights glowing. Distant sound of traffic. My phone buzzed. A text from Tara. Everything okay? Saw a lot of cars leave fast. I typed back, everything is fine. Thank you for checking. Another buzz. This time from Miles Ketter. Just checking in. How did it go? Exactly as planned. Thank you for your help. Anytime, Graham. I set the phone down, sipped my coffee, felt the weight of the day settling into my bones. I had won. But it did not feel like victory. It felt like survival, like waking up after surgery and realizing the pain is gone, but something has been cut away forever. Maybe Evan would come back, maybe he would learn, maybe he would figure out who he wanted to be, or maybe he would not. Either way, I had protected what was mine, not just the house, my dignity, my right to say no, my refusal to be managed, manipulated, or erased. I finished my coffee, washed the cup, put it away, turned off the lights one by one, walked upstairs to my bedroom, the room Sienna had assigned to her parents in her little plan. The room that was mine and would stay mine. I lay down in my own bed, in my own house, and closed my eyes. Outside, somewhere in the city, my son was probably fighting with his wife. Her parents were probably raging about the old man who ruined their plans. Nadia was probably posting angry messages online. Let them. I had built this house with my hands. I had paid for it with my time. I had protected it with clear boundaries and documented truth. And no one, not family, not guilt, not pressure, not lies, would take it from me. The house was silent. The night was still. And I was home.